What's good, everybody? It's Jack back here with your boy Mike, going over a little bit of a Bears recap and look ahead to week 5 coming up against the Carolina Panthers. Big win, huge home win back at Soldier Field this past Sunday against the Rams. Going into the season, you look at that schedule, those first 4 games. A lot of people probably thinking got to take care of the Titans. Texans probably going to be a loss. Hopefully, the Colts are a team that you should be able to beat. That Rams game, kind of a little bit of a coin flip. Maybe didn't shake out quite the way some people may have expected or anticipated, but at the end of the day, the Bears are 2-2 coming off of that 24-18 win. Some things not so good still, but some others starting to improve a little bit. I love the way that the Bears, I would say the biggest difference in the game from my perspective was that when the Bears moved the ball, they were getting sixes instead of threes, and the the Rams were being forced into field goals instead of getting in the end zone. I thought the Rams were probably the more impressive team offensively, kind of moving up and down the field between the 20s, but they couldn't punch it in. Whereas the Bears' red zone offense was able to make some plays and get it done, and that was the difference in the game. 2-2 through 4 weeks. It's a little different now with the 17-game season, but we're still, pretty much at that quarter mark, that quarter checkpoint that people like to talk about, where you can kind of look at these games in those 4 set blocks and, start to identify, what the teams look like, where they're going, and how we feel about them. Mike, what are your thoughts coming off that big Rams win, where the Bears are at in general, skating into week 5 here?
I got a lot of notes actually on last week's game before we get to this week's game. But 2-2 feels a lot better than 1-3 would have felt. I was scared shitless going into that game that we were just going to get outcoached, outclassed by the coaching staff, and that was going to just be too big of a difference to overcome. I'm not saying that we outcoached them by any means, but we did enough to get a win, and that was huge. Yes, the Rams are banged up. Doesn't matter. They still got Stafford. They still got McVay. They are still an NFL outfit. They're not like one of the weakest teams in the league. So I'm thrilled to get a win there. 2-2 is great. Um, I know we don't really talk about other shows or anything, but that big cat from Barstool was. I heard a Twitter video of him saying, before the season, I think he had 2-2 going into it, but a win at the Colts, loss versus the Rams. Yeah, I mean, you get to 2-2 after our opening stretch, and I think you feel pretty good. This stretch, though, coming up, this next 5 games in the next 6 weeks, they have to go positive. They have to at least get 3 wins, if not 4, to have any chance at the playoffs because their back half of the schedule is incredibly tough. I'd like to see some significant strides in these coming weeks. You agree with that overall sentiment before I kind of hop into some specific things I want to talk about the last game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just kind of going off the top of my head and not looking at it, I know it's the Panthers and the Jaguars ahead of the break. And then I think you got like the Redskins, the
Yep.
Patriots mixed in there.
Yep.
So those are 4 very, very winnable. And like you said, given the way that the back end of the schedule is loaded with the NFC North, um, it, I heard the NFC North, I think, is the only division in the NFL where all 4 teams have a positive point differential. Given what the Minnesota Vikings are doing, you sort of thought maybe that's a soft spot. Even in these down years that the Bears have had, they've always sort of competed with the Lions and the Vikings. Obviously, Packers a little bit of a different story, but going into the year, you might have thought, okay, Vikings, we could handle them, split with the Lions type of thing, and hopefully finally get one against the Packers. But those Vikings games are certainly not going to be layups, far from it. Could prove to be the toughest team in the division, the way things are starting to shake out. So, yeah, that back half is daunting. The one good thing about that given what this team has done to this point, is it still allows for a little bit of time to continue to grow, to get better, and to be more prepared for those more difficult matchups. I do think it's going to favor the Bears in a sense that, kind of the way it has the Vikings, that the Bears are a very different team now, given their quarterback situation, the coaching staff changes on the offensive side of the ball. Division games breed familiarity, and that's why they're so difficult. But I think and I hope that we'll be able to have a little bit of a different look and some wrinkles for that back half of the schedule that some of those familiar opponents may not recognize so easily. And then, as far as the way things stand right now, 2-2 is what it is. I'm pretty okay with that, all things considered. But despite little, glimmers here and there, this offense is horrible. I think it's like 29th or 30th overall in the NFL still. It's been just bad, bad, bad. There's no two ways to put it. It's
Yep.
not been good. Like I said, you see the flash plays from Caleb Williams. I still have very high hopes and belief and confidence in the player. But it's got to start coming out on the field more consistently. And hopefully we get that as we skate into week 5 because it's not sustainable the way that they've won these games. They've been very fortunate to this point in the schedule. They didn't take advantage of a banged up Colts team. They were able to take advantage of the banged up Rams, and they're catching some more breaks this week with both of the Panthers' interior linemen are their 2 starting interior line guys are both going to be out. So they're catching another break, and they have to take advantage.
Yeah, man. All right. To go back to last week, I got 9 or 10 points I want to make real quick. I'm going to try to do somewhat rapid fire, though, because we don't want this video getting too long getting away from us. Defensive side of the ball is what I'm going to start with because obviously it's been the highlight of the season to this point. I think we're at the area of the team I think we're most confident in right now. Jaquan Brisker, have yourself a game, kid. Guy was all over the place. Caught one pick to seal the game. Caught a pick earlier that was overturned because he did not reestablish his presence back in the field of play. Guy was all over the place. I think he led the team in tackles. Like I said, the turnovers. Great day. Keep building on it. I used to give the guy a lot of shit because he wasn't really doing too much and he'd be celebrating everything. Now that he's actually like performing week in and week out, it almost feels a little bit more like swagger. I love to see it. Keep building on it, Brisker. Jervon Dexter.
Just quickly about Brisker, it seemed like he that like just brain dead penalty he got on the sideline, which watching the game, I maybe it was different because the announcers didn't make much of it. They were kind of like, yeah, that's clearly a penalty. The whistle didn't really sound until after he had kind of made the hit. The guy was still fighting for yardage. I know it was tight to the sideline. Whatever. That's neither here nor there. Once that play was made, he got that bonehead 15-yard penalty that sort of cost him. He really hunkered down. Something about that might have lit a fire under his ass. But yeah, he got after it Sunday. It was fun to watch.
It was awesome. Jervon Dexter, keep going. Keep building, baby. 3 sacks through 4 games. He's proven to be offering something in the form of pass rush on the interior, something we weren't 100% confident in. Guy seems to be getting better every week, building some confidence. Jervon Dexter, keep going, baby. Keep going. I have a little bit of a personal story about the Montez Sweat strip sack that came up, was a huge turning point in the game. Offense really had nothing going. Montez Sweat gets the strip sack. I forget who recovers. Doesn't matter. Bears are able to get their first points off of that strip sack. I was in a bar in Mexico, and when he stripped that ball, I yelled, ball, ball. And I'm not bullshitting you, half a dozen Mexican dude waiters and bartenders or whatever else, I'll start yelling ball with me in this bar. Oh, it was fucking incredible. I was loving it. So, Montez Sweat, you get paid the big bucks. We went out and got you for key moments like that to deliver, to change a game. Not going to change a game much more than a strip sack. And then along the lines of defense, but it's actually special teams, Tory Taylor. I know we don't love the ideology of picking a punter in the draft. Definitely not in the fourth round. Um, but he finally had a good game. He had 5 great punts. I know the analytics people are talking about like how he like added all this percentage to win the game. I don't know about all that. I could just tell you he had like 5 out of 6 like really good punts. Love to see it. It feels like the first time and since like before Brad Maynard that we've had a punter with a little bit of a leg. Hopefully, he just keeps growing with confidence too, and that becomes more of a normal thing out of the guy. So love to see that. That's what I got for the defensive side of the ball. I got some points on the offensive side of the ball when
Yeah, no comment on the punter.
you're ready. On the offensive side of the ball, DeAndre Swift, way to have a game, kid. A lot of people giving him shit, me included. Looked terrible through 3 weeks. He had a huge game. Was If you only watched week 4, you'd probably be thinking DeAndre Swift was our best player on offense. Great game, kid. Build on it this week, going against a Carolina defense that is not strong against the run. Tevin Jenkins goes down with an injury. Our offensive line immediately looks better. I've liked Tevin. He's been a good soldier for the Bears, I feel like. But I think at this point he's proven that he's not worth another contract. Hopefully he gives us what he's got the remainder of the season, but I think we officially have decided to move on from Tevin, or at least that would be my vote if I had to vote on the situation.
What really quick going off of that, I agree in large part about the overall sentiment on Tevin Jenkins, just in the general sense of one, he's just unfortunately not that great, even though he's shown some flashes at times last year specifically. But two, he's consistently injury riddled. So yeah, it's tough to commit money into a guy like that unless if he was clear upper echelon talent wise, you can deal with the injury risk. But I just don't think that risk reward balance is quite there for him. But that being said, Nate Davis did grade out as their number one guy against the pass
Pass.
this past weekend. Horrible against the run. I don't know if that's going to improve. I feel like that's sort of his MO. But in an offense that seems to want to pass the ball, I'd rather have him be good against the pass. But do you have any thoughts if Tevin, I know he's dealing with the rib injury, might not play this weekend. Do you have any thoughts about the way that Pryor was able to hold up pretty okay at that left guard spot?
Yeah, I think you keep rocking Pryor.
But if Tevin comes back healthy,
If Tevin's
it,
healthy.
maybe move him back to that right guard spot where he was. That's where he played
Over
his best
Nate?
football, at right guard before they moved him to left guard.
And you're saying let Davis start on the bench?
I'm asking your thoughts.
I think after what I've seen through, so the last 2 years, I was a big Tevin Jenkins supporter. Through his injuries, through whatever, I thought that when he played, he was, for the most part, he had some mirrors here and there, but for the most part, he was our best offensive lineman when he played. This year, he's been very bad. He's been especially bad against the pass. And if I'm coaching right now, what I saw last week out of Davis and Pryor, I think I just rock it. Tell Jenkins if you could seat up, great, but we're not rushing you back in. I don't know, like, do you borderline like throwing that Kieran Amagaji if something happens? Like, I don't know what the answers are. I know it's a fluid situation. I just saw something like an hour or so ago too that they're really hoping that Bates comes back healthy because they're not happy with how Shelton's played, and he was really the original plan at center. So I don't know. The offensive line's kind of a mess. It's another conversation. This week, what would I do? I'd probably rock with what worked last week and just once Tevin went down and just not force Tevin back. That's probably what I would do. And we have 2 games before the bye, if I'm right. We have this and then Jacksonville and London. Maybe after the bye, you try to reassess and figure out what to do with the line. But I think these next 2 weeks, you just try to survive and get some W's. Last 2 points before we talk about this week. The touchdown pass to DJ Moore was pinpoint accuracy. Caleb has been disappointing to me with his deep ball accuracy for the most part, especially on the sidelines. Um, that ball was perfect, perfect precision, and he's been great in the short intermediate stuff in terms of accuracy. He really seems to be able to just put the ball where he wants. Um, just want to point that out. It was great. And then the last point, Shane Waldron, he's been terrible until this week. He started out this week terrible. Finally took putting a backup center at fullback to start doing something. Um, Hopefully he's just kind of coming into his own, starting to figure it out a little bit, because I think he's been as bad as Caleb Williams has been, as bad as our offensive line's been, if not worse. I think the three of them have been just bad all around. Let's hope they can start getting better and better, because we need to get better against these bad teams, like you said, before we get to the good teams later in the season.
Yeah, I think though that's all pretty fair. And we kind of talked about it in some of our picks, discussions where, early on in the year, I'm gonna give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, because I do think that teams are trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. I think there's a willingness to do some things that they might not necessarily have a great deal of confidence in, but they're going to at least feel them out. They're going to at least see the scheme, what they're kind of thinking behind the scenes. They're going to at least test it out on the field, and see what they get out of it, see what they don't, and sort of build from there. So we're 4 weeks in. We're kind of at that point where I think it's really time to trim the fat and throw out the shit that isn't working. Don't try to think, oh well, if we just click here or there, maybe it'll be better. Nope. Whatever's been garbage is garbage. Get it out of the game plan. No need for it to be poisoning anything else. Move forward with what is working and build upon those successes. I think Caleb Williams has certainly been disappointing with the deep ball in particular. I say all the time, I repeat myself like an idiot, but I'm not a college football fan at all, really. I watch it because it's on Saturdays, and what the fuck else do I have to do? But I don't really pay much attention to it, know a lot about it. And I remember asking, like, was Caleb Williams known to not have a good deep ball? But it's like, no, he's supposed to have a perfect deep ball. And so it's been frustrating to see the way that that has sort of transpired. But he has shown three, four, five, six, a handful of plays, even in those worst games against Houston. Some of the worst moments in that first game against Tennessee. He shows these plays where you're like, all right, this guy's got it. He's just got to keep working at it and figuring it out. I think it's tough with the narrative going on, and how not even the narrative, just the reality of how well Jaden Daniels is playing. I think it's a little bit of hey, are you starting to worry yet? Like maybe we got the wrong guy. I'm not. I'm not there quite yet. I think it's pretty well documented that the Commanders are running a pretty dumbed down offense that is catering to Jaden Daniels. Cliff Kingsbury is doing a good job. They're winning games. But those college style offenses, I don't think are all too sustainable in the NFL once teams get some more film on them and what they're trying to do. I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And I think that they're just sort of thrusting Caleb into that pro style, and he's picking it up. I think he's showing progress as we move along. And like I said, 4 weeks. The preseason is it's nothing now.
Yeah.
These first 4 weeks of the regular season, that's him getting his feet wet. That's getting thrown into the fire a little bit, taking those live bullets in the pocket, feeling that pressure, feeling the speed. And I think he's just going to keep progressing moving forward. And some of those throws, like you mentioned, that touchdown throw was as good of a throw as you'll see in the NFL by any quarterback. And my favorite one of the day was the seam route to Cole Kmet.
Oh yeah.
I mean, dude, it's just one of those things where we haven't seen it in Chicago in so long.
Ever.
With the guys we've had, recently, it's kind of you're just frustrated by the guys are there and there's just a lack of a willingness to throw the ball. You'd rather rely on your legs, rely on your athleticism, whatever. I mean, Cole Komet's going up the seam. That defender's head is turned, and boom, the ball's on him because he knows that's his window. He seems to understand what open is in the NFL, and he's not afraid to make the throws. And I absolutely love that. So I do think
I
there's some
agree.
positives, and I hope we keep building on those. But yeah, moving forward, big week. This is the Bears' last home game until November. Kind of crazy. They go to London to play Jacksonville. Then they are on the bye, and then they got away before they come back to Soldier Field. The Bears have the longest home winning streak right now in the NFL. I think they've won their last 7 or 8 in a row at Soldier Field. They absolutely have to keep that going. Not only have they won their last 7, I think they're 6-1 against the number in those 7 games. They are taking care of business at Soldier Field. That's what good football teams do. They win games, they take care of business at home. Bears absolutely have to do it again this week with the Carolina Panthers. A little feisty, a little resurgent with the Bryce Young benching, Andy Dalton, veteran quarterback. He's going to have, a little chip on his shoulder coming into Chicago, a little QB1 banter rolling back into town. What are your 3 keys for the Bears to make sure they take care of business at home at Soldier Field on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, man. Must win. And they look a little tougher since Andy Dalton's taken the helm away from Bryce Young. But keys are a little basic this week, but ain't nothing wrong with basic. Sometimes it pays off to keep things basic, keep things simple. First key of the game. Do you know how many points the Bears have scored in the first quarter so far this year, Jack? Through 4
Point,
games? Yeah,
I'm going to say 0.
3. 3 points in the first quarter through 4 games. They got to come ready to play because the Panthers will. Every week, Panthers are going out there fighting for their fucking lives. Bears got to figure out a way not to start slow and score some points in the first quarter. Come ready to play. Don't take the Panthers lightly. Come ready to play because they're going to come ready to play and they're going to come trying to beat you at home. Come ready to play. Don't start slow. Find a way to score. I'm going to say find a way to score at least 7 in the first quarter. That's going to be my first key to a Bears victory.
I like that one a lot. I feel like that's been maybe was one of the most frustrating things about Bears teams these past few years is how poor that they were in the fourth quarter of games, which is winning time, and they never fucking won. But they did like oddly have very high success rates on opening drives in past years.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see them start to pick that back up because it is important, especially at home against an opponent like this. The last thing you want to do is let them get out of the gates fast and get a little bit of confidence, get a little bit of moxie going. Think, hey, we're in this game. We can get this win. You don't want that to happen. The sooner you can sort of stomp them out, the better. I love that key. Kind of get out ahead, stay ahead, stomp on them, and don't really ever let them in it.
Absolutely. My second key to a Bears victory this week, it's a very obvious one. I'm going to say it, and you're going to be like, well, of course, Glenn, you fucking do that. You're going to win the game 9 times out of 10. Um, you got to score at least 3 offensive TDs. The reason I have that number is because every team that has played the Carolina Panthers up to this point has scored a minimum of 3 offensive TDs. I don't know if the Bears have scored 3 offensive TDs in a game yet. The Panthers are 32nd in points against, or points allowed, I should say. They're a bottom 5 rushing defense in yards per game. This is a game where you got to go out. You get to the goal line, or you get to the red zone, I should say. You get to the goal line, you get the ball in the end zone. We got to find a way to score 3 offensive touchdowns in this game. Couple that with Waldron seemingly changing up his strategy down closer to the goal line, starting to do a little more under the center stuff, which we were asking for. with the quarterback, a little more downhill running. Find a way to score three offensive touchdowns this game. It could be through the air, it could be on the ground. I don't care, but I want to see 3 touchdowns from the offense. I don't want to be praying for no defensive touchdowns or anything. Give me 3 offensive touchdowns.
Love it. Got to score points to win football games, especially in today's NFL. And despite the 2-2 record and the good drives they've had at times, as we mentioned previously in this same conversation, the offense has not been good, and they have not played good defenses. I think Texans will probably prove to be a pretty good defense at the end of the year. Seems like the Titans might prove to be
Yeah.
pretty reasonable defense, but the Colts and the Rams
No.
are two bottom feeder defenses in the league to this point, and I would imagine they likely will be at the end of the
Yeah.
year. And Carolina is kind of along that same thread. You have to be able to attack and score points in general, let alone against these weaker opponents on the defensive side of the football. They traded away Brian Burns. They bring in the head coach, Dave Canellis, obviously more of an offensive guy. I don't really know what they got going on the defensive side of the ball, but seems like not a lot. And yeah, you got to score points. 3 touchdowns, I think, like you said, if you're scoring 3 touchdowns, you should be winning games. But I think it's a reasonable ask of this offense, and they need to show it more consistently. We could use a little bit of a coming out party where it's not just like, thank God the defense took care of business. I trust our defense to hold their own. We need the offense to start consistently holding up their end of the bargain.
And to keep along with that basic trend, my third key, Jack, defense keep not breaking, keep bending and not breaking. They gave up more yards than they amassed against the Rams by quite a bit, I think. But through 4 games, they've given up 17 points, 18 points, 19 points, and 21 points. This defense, this cover 2 shell, the way they got things cooking, they seem to give up some chunk plays sometimes in the middle of the field, between the 50 or between the 30s. But they really do a good job of tightening up when it matters. And they've been since or through the 4 games this season, they have 8 turnovers, 8 takeaways, I should say. If you go back to week 10 of last year, I think they lead the league in takeaways. Find a couple takeaways, keep being tough in critical situations. You, if you follow keys 2 and keys 3, you score 3 offensive touchdowns, and the defense holds them to 21 or less, keeps bending and not breaking. Those are a pretty easy recipe to success in getting a Bears W. Very easy keys this week. Sometimes keeping it simple and just doing things the right way is the easiest way to get a victory. I'm going to throw in 1/4 real quick. It's going to take 1 second to add in, and then you can talk about the third and fourth keys. Gotta start limiting the penalties. It feels like we have so many penalties this year. I know it's kind of a theme around the NFL, but gotta find a way to start limiting the penalties. Jack, your thoughts on keys number 3 and 4?
Yeah, I like what you said about, their simple keys, but when you play an opponent like the Carolina Panthers, who is probably going to be picking in the top 5 when it's all said and done in next year's draft, yeah, the key should be simple.
Yeah,
You take care of business and you go win the football game. You don't need to do anything overly complex. You don't need to pull a special teams return or a defensive touchdown out of your ass just to sneak out with a win. You score when you get the ball, when you take advantage of your opportunities, when you get down in the red zone, you punch it in. And defensively, you don't let them. You don't let them get to pay dirt, like you said. Bend, don't break. That's sort of the staple of that Eberflus style defense. Sort of the staple of the way that NFL defenses are going ever since Mahomes and these deep ball type quarterbacks have sort of started to dominate the league. Everyone kind of sits those safeties far back. They give you the underneath stuff. They say, we're not going to let you hit us with the explosives. And that's very much what Eberflus likes to do. And they've been finding ways to get a lot of turnovers playing that way as well, which makes a huge difference. But I like that the keys are simple because when you play an opponent that is inferior, that's all you got to do. Go out there, take care of business, don't overcomplicate it. To your point about the flags, yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. It shows a lack of discipline. In my opinion, it is a poorly coached team, but they need to get better across the board. It seems like, one of my favorite quotes from this week. I hate to give him credit because it's a guy that I have nightmares of, but Robert Saleh came out with the Jets and was talking about their pre-snap issues and how maybe they need to, discuss changing their cadence or not trying to go with the hard count so much the way that Rodgers has for the past 15 years, whatever it's been. And the reporter asked Rodgers about Saleh's comments, and he's like, "Oh well, that's one way to look at it, or we could just hold our guys accountable." And I couldn't have loved the soundbite more. It's vintage Aaron Rodgers, but it's just so true, man. Hold your guys accountable. None of this bullshit, this pre-snap stuff. You know that the refs are looking for this garbage. Oh, he's not on the line. I think Darnell Wright got hit with
Yeah,
that
he
the
got hit
other
with that
day on a
once.
big
Yep.
play. Stupid penalty, and yeah, it's nitpicky, and it's like that's such a garbage call, but they're calling it. I know it. I would, it happens 100 times over the course of the weekend. I see it all the time. If I know it, you're on the fucking field. Your coaching staff should be telling you you should know what's going on. The little things matter. You cannot shoot yourself in the foot. This offense has struggled enough. We can't be having these 1st and 15s, 1st and 20s. Stay ahead of the sticks. Don't hurt yourself. Yeah, limit the penalties is huge, and it's another, like you said, going along with the theme of it's a simple key to take care of business this week. All right, so given your keys, obviously get out to that start. Go ahead, get some points in the first quarter. Don't let the Panthers kind of build any confidence or hang around the game for too long. We want to see that offense step their game up. Go get at least 3 touchdowns. They've been lackluster despite some of the glimmers. We need some more consistency. Punch that thing in the end zone a few times. Go ahead and run away with one. And the defense, sort of status quo. Keep doing your thing. We can give up some yards, some plays here and there, but keep them out of the end zone and we'll be all right. You got any sort of score prediction you're feeling that you want to throw out for this weekend?
No, well, yes, I will throw out a score prediction. This team worries me more than they did with Bryce Young. Throwing that out there, but I still think if the Bears come ready to play, there's no reason they don't win by at least 10. I'm going to go 31-20 Bears.
Love it. Yeah, I noticed that I was actually in the lull between the afternoon wave before the Sunday night game. I remember I took a peek at the look aheads for next week, and I saw that the Bears were like 5.5 point favorites. And then when I looked again on Monday, like afternoon, they were 3.5 point favorites. I think it's back out to maybe 4 now. So there was definitely a lot of action coming in on the Panthers, who have been, more competitive under Andy Dalton, certainly. But yeah, I don't know. I think that the Carolina does have a good offensive line,
They
better
do.
than people realize, and I think that they'll try to run the ball. But the Bears are good against the run, man. They really are. And I think if you get out to that early lead, like you said, with your first key, sort of force them to hopefully rely on the pass a little bit more. I mean, Dave Canales is a good coach. He really is. He proved that he was going to sort of in Tampa last year, they would run the ball no matter what. He would stick with it. I'm sure he will do the same with Carolina. But yeah, get out a lead, make them, force Andy Dalton to make some plays. I think you could see some of those turnovers come into the factor in the game. I don't know, 31-20. I would love to see that sort of coming out party, but I think I'm going to be a little more conservative. I think that's going to be more of like, I think the defense really, puts a stranglehold on them. I don't think Carolina is able to do too much. I'm going to go 24 to 14. That's where I'm going to go with this one.
To
I do
your
think
to your point about running the ball on the Carolina side, I was strongly considering one of my keys to be limiting Chuba Hubbard. In the last 2 games, he's gone over 100 each of those 2 games. Um, he is somebody that if we're not careful, if they don't come ready to play, he's gonna get some yardage. So and the Bears, while the defense has been strong and it's been bend not break, they have shown the um, maybe their biggest weakness so far is like some big run plays and maybe some zone passing as well. I don't know. I get a little worried that the Chuba Hubbard kind of being in form along with a veteran quarterback like Andy Dalton that's going to know how to pass against the zone. Is it a bad recipe? I don't know. I don't want to overthink that. I still think the Bears find a way to get a win.
Yeah, no, I think, like I said, I don't, I think that they'll have the potential to be competitive, but
Yeah.
I don't see it being too close. I just think that the Bears will also want to, I feel like the vibe of the game, I'm not sure they're going to be trying to get up and down the field. I feel like they might want to control the clock a little bit more, which is why I lean towards that 24 number. But yeah, I'd love to see a coming out party. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful Sunday in Chicago this weekend. I think it's supposed to be like low 70s, high 60s, and sunny. It's going to be a perfect day out there on the lake. If anyone's going, I hope they enjoy it. But you got any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No, man. I'd really love to see some offense this week. Defense, keep doing your thing, and 3-2 would sound a whole lot better than 2-3. It'd be great if we could close out before this bye on a nice little winning streak. It'd be nice to go in the bye on a little 3-game winning streak and really set the sights on the Commanders. But can't look ahead. One game at a time. Don't take the Panthers lightly. Let's go get a W.
Amen. You said it best right there. One game at a time. Got to take care of business this week. That's all you can control. And there's always that added little carrot too, where you got that Panthers second round pick. Give them an L. Get that pick a little earlier. Hopefully it ends up being the number one pick in the second round, and it makes it sort of like a first round pick, double up. So it'd be a beautiful thing to see. Help your own fortunes, not only for this season, but next season as well. And like I kind of mentioned at the top, last home game at Soldier Field, all the way until November. That's a long break, a full month between this weekend and the next time you get to be at home. Got to keep doing your thing at Soldier Field. Playoff teams in the NFL win games at home. That's how you get to the postseason. Got to take care of business this week. Go get it done. And let's move to 3-2, and we'll be partying ahead of that game in London, baby.
Oh yeah, go Bears, man.
Bears.
Bears. Like and subscribe.